Before we get started, I just wanted to remind everyone that today's session is being recorded. All of the sessions are being recorded for this event, and we will distribute them to attendees in approximately 2 weeks. All lines are muted upon entry, and we ask that all participants stay on mute throughout the presentation. If you've dialed in via phone for your audio, please press *6 to mute your phone line for the duration of the presentation. If you have any questions for Michael, we're going to hold those until the end, and you can just type them into chat and we'll get to as many as we can. Michael, the virtual audience is all yours.
Thank you so much, Rita. You're a total rock star. Appreciate your help today and getting all of my technical issues resolved before anyone got in the room. To the audience, thank you very much for attending. Welcome to my office. Come on in and sit down. Today, I'm going to talk about the next frontier of mobile payment. Here we go. So the next step in mobile payment growth, let's talk about it. The economy is reopening, and the game has changed. People are adopting mobile for all facets of their life, and that includes parking. We can take steps right now to increase that mobile adoption and accelerate it. Things like an app-free way of paying for parking. Mobile parking payment is a new frontier because it opens up new revenue streams, whether that's moving from free to paid parking or whether that's using convenience fees as part of your pricing strategy for parking. You can meet your customers where they are and give them payment options. We've seen over the last really more than a decade steady growth from mobile payment, and it could hit a limit, but there are things that we can do to make it accelerate and explode. Let's dive in. I want to talk a little bit about today app-free mobile payment, and I will focus a little bit on the T2 product called T2 Mobile Pay as a way of achieving that. It's a mobile payment solution, a really simple and convenient way of paying for parking. It gives you a way to own your customers' data, to reflect your brand, so a 100% white labeled solution, and a way to generate new revenue. It gives you seamless integration with all payment modes, and that's for rates, revenue, and for enforcement. So it's a really key piece of the puzzle for parking payments and accelerating mobile payments. What makes T2 Mobile Pay different as an app-free solution? It gives you a direct relationship with your customers. So there's no third party in between you and your customer. You own your payment data and your customer data completely. It's got a completely unified rate and rule engine for all transactions. And so this is a way of extending the rate engine that defines rates at pay stations so that it can be used by mobile pay as well. Set it in one place and use it over and over. 100% white label, as I mentioned, to include that's completely included, and it reflects your brand to your customers. So you can communicate directly with your customers through branding and through messaging. T2 Mobile Pay is different in another way. It puts you in the driver's seat. It basically puts you into the mobile payment business. You set your convenience fee and you charge it and you keep it. This is like the Ticketmaster model of charging for parking. Convenience fees have historically been a way for app vendors to basically make their revenue. But convenience fees in just about every other industry they're used as a part of the pricing strategy. And so T2 Mobile Pay supports that model of pricing where you keep the convenience fee for yourself, and that lets you retain 100% of your parking revenue. So how it works when it's app-free, this is really a key part of this. Having no app to download and no account to create, it reduces those barriers to use and the friction that people have when they arrive on the lot. So they can text to get access to the system. They can scan a QR code, and once they get access, it actually directs them to a website. If you think about it, having an app to pay for parking is just another step that you don't need, because we have an app already installed on the phone that's perfectly good at taking parking payments. So you can take payments directly on the website. It's got a great face, very slick, single step to pay for parking, and then to make that forwarded into a central system for an enforcement perspective. So it's a really simple procedure. There's a sign on the lot. You follow the directions on the sign to get to the website, and you pay for parking. Nothing could be simpler, and it just reduces those barriers to adoption. No one's going to go to your parking facility and download an app so that they can pay for parking. There's key benefits for you as a parking operator. You bypass those third-party apps, and you own your own customers and data. There's no reason for someone to be in between you and your parking customers. You should be the one that's the face of parking in your facilities. You can leverage that mobile convenience as a pricing tool, so the convenience fees are customizable, and that can be a new revenue stream to increase your revenue at existing facilities by setting the convenience fee according to what people are willing to pay. This, of course, seamlessly integrates into the T2 Iris platform for revenue and enforcement, so that you have a really simplified and consistent way of reporting as well as on enforcing parking. Mobile Pay has the ability to communicate public messages. So there are banners that appear on the payment screens where you can provide information about city events, for example. You can provide information about a campus team or upcoming games, homecoming, and so forth. You can have public messaging that you resell as well. So there's an advertising platform, and if you're a commercial operator selling parking in a business district, you can sell advertising to the local businesses. And it's a unique opportunity, of course, when someone's paying for parking. That's at a moment where they're open to make a decision about how they're going to spend their time at wherever they're going. And it's a great time to inject that message on behalf of a restaurant or a local business. That app-free platform, again, it increases mobile payment adoption. So the trick here, of course, is to try and get as many people using mobile payment as possible. Many of you probably are using an app today, and it's installed by your customers, and they're using it, and you're getting good value of it. This is a way to increase adoption to people who haven't downloaded the app yet. It gives them a second or third way of paying for parking that they don't need the app. And of course, we all know that there's a very fractured market for mobile payment apps today. This really reduces the barrier to adoption so that people don't have to have the app installed on their phone to be able to pay for parking. It works with the phone just the way it came from the vendor. So it works and plays well with any payment stream, really, whether you have pay stations or whether you have a mobile app or both. Very simple and straightforward, transparent pricing with no recurring development fees. So it's a very simple application to bring into your environment. Putting all your mobile payment data in one place, a transaction management platform like T2 Iris integrates mobile pay, pay stations, other payment providers or reservation type systems. It provides you with a unified rate and rule engine for mobile payments. The API is available for other third-party providers to participate in that. And this brings you more, you might look at this and say, okay, well, a rate engine's great. I guess I set my rates in one place and it's used everywhere. And that's a big part of the story, but there's another piece that you got to think about. If you have, say, pay stations and mobile payment, and you've got a rule where the first hour is free, well, a lot of parkers will probably figure out that that rule is enforced on pay stations and it's enforced on your mobile app, but it's not enforced for both. So if you go to the pay station and pay for an hour, it's free. And then if you wait an hour and you set a reminder on your phone, you open up that payment app and you buy another hour, you get a second free hour. Or they might notice that there's a 2-hour limit on street. And so they also notice, though, that you pay at the meter and then you wait 2 hours and you pay again on the phone, and now you've broken the rule and you've parked for 4 hours. So a unified rate and transaction engine like this, it breaks that up so that if the pay station and the payment app are both asking for the current rate from the same rate engine, then that rate engine can know this person's already paid for parking, and that changes the rules. So they're only allowed to pay for 2 hours total, or they're not allowed to get the first hour free a second time. And that's all done by license plate. And so it means it's more than just set your rates once and then you use it anywhere. It's consistent rule enforcement across all your payment streams. And of course, the more payment streams you bring on board, the more critical that becomes. Because if you're adding a third payment stream, then suddenly you're basically giving away 3 hours of free parking if you're giving first hour free, or you're letting people, triple the length of stay that they're allowed. So that common rate engine, yes, it brings you convenience. Absolutely, it's a very simple way to set rates. But it's also so important about the rule enforcement. And there's more on this in the next slide that we'll dig into. Recording all your transactions in one place, very obvious benefit for consistent enforcement, real-time monitoring, comprehensive reporting, as well as analytics, and just the ability to look up any transaction, no matter where it comes from, by zone, by plate, even by credit card last four. Those kinds of things of having that single location for it all, really vital for having an efficient operation for mobile payment and any payments. That unified rate and rule engine, this is a great new addition to our suite of applications. It's completely calendar based, just like you would schedule a meeting in Outlook. You schedule your rates just like that. You can schedule them as recurring. You can schedule them as one-off if you want to either replace the rates on a holiday. So you can overschedule a recurring rate table with a specific one on the day and say all these rates replace the normal rates for the day. You can add an ad hoc rate period that's contributive. So you've got your standard schedule where you've got rates every day. You add a second rate period for a second rate table for the same period of time, but you can say these ones just add on to those ones so that you've got a period where you're adding additional rates. That consistency of rate and rules that I mentioned on the previous slide, so important for making sure that people are using their system the way that you intended, and that you're charging the prices that you want, and that you're doing it consistently no matter how they're paying for parking, and no matter if they pay first at a pay station and second at a mobile application. The flexibility is unmatched. 5 rate types, restricted parking, so to periods of time where you can't pay for parking, VIP rate tables for things like a residence discount, limited rate tables for first hour free or for a lower price for the first purchase or what have you. All of this is built into that rate engine, and as we build these kinds of, very flexible and consistent rates in the core rate engine for pay stations, what we find is that it's sometimes difficult to reflect those in a mobile application because the view of how rates are set up isn't maybe consistent. This rate engine completely resolves that problem by having an API that says, if I'm paying for parking right now, what are the rates that are available? And so you can basically say, well, here are the rates that are available, and that considers the time of day, so the schedule is accounted for, how many times you've parked for the day. That means that your limited use rates or your first hour free is all handled. I'm a resident, you get the residence discount properly applied. Having a centralized rate engine for that lets you get into these very subtle and nuanced rate definitions and have them used consistently, no matter what your payment stream is. So this is a big step forward in terms of rate definition and use in real world. It's fully integrated with pay stations, of course. Any transaction that started with T2 Mobile Pay can be extended at the pay station, for example. full reporting and dashboard capabilities in Iris gives you complete insight into your total revenue picture. The dashboards show you the comparison of what payment stream are you getting, what's cash, what's credit, what's which zones, what times a day, and it doesn't matter where that's coming from. You can slice and dice that data and show your performance across your entire organization. A system of reference for enforcement. That's one place to go to find out, who's actually paid for parking, who's got the right to park right now. It makes an enforcement integration so simple. We're having a back end that's also an integration platform is so key to being able to bring in all the different players in your organization, the different providers that you've chosen. You're looking at pay stations and mobile and enforcement, and they've all got to work and play well together. LPR, all of these things need to connect to one another, and having a simple back end that's got that integration interface for all of those different suppliers gives you the ability to mix and match and choose the best part, the best supplier for each function, and have them work together. Of course, at the pay station, that plate report, if you're doing a manual enforcement, you print out a plate report or a stall report at the pay station. Because it's integrated with that back end that's uniform across all the payment streams, you get a complete picture of all the transactions at the pay station when you go. The most important part of this, though, of course, is what's the Parker experience like? And there's a bunch of really great things about this. The first is you can keep your existing integrated payment apps. There's nothing that says that this replaces anything that you've got already, and so you've already probably put some effort into establishing a relationship with a payment application, and many of your customers or your residents have downloaded that app. They use it regularly and they know it. There's no reason to back out of that. But what this does is it adds an option for users who don't have the apps. And so if you've got visitors or if you've got people who have just never downloaded the app, this provides a very simple, fast, low barrier way to access mobile payment, just using the phone exactly as it was shipped by the vendor. And when things are simple and fast like that, more spaces are occupied, but even more important, more spaces are paid by mobile. That reduces, wear and tear on the machines. It reduces collection costs. It reduces consumables like paper. All of these things are reduced by opening up another way to pay for parking through mobile, and it makes your operation more efficient as a result of that. Another key part of this platform is really quick and easy validations. So when you're paying with mobile pay, you can do a validation. And so you have local vendors or perhaps departments where, if you're at a university, for example, you give them all validation codes. Somebody parks and then they pay. They go to that business, say, and the hostess, for example, at the Cheesecake Factory or Del Fisco's, you have the example here, Del Fisco's, they touch that business, and then they either give the parker that verification code or they just type it in directly on the phone. Then the parker's session is validated. And so that means that this is a great way for transient parking to allow for validation, which has always been quite an Achilles heel of an open lot transient parking system. When you have gates, the payment is at the end of the session. And so when you're leaving the lot, if you've got the validation ticket, you can reduce the amount that you pay. This system is very clever where when you say how long you're going to park for, the system actually pre-authorizes the credit card for that charge. And it's not until the end of the session that it finally captures the transaction. And so when you do a validation, it's like you're checking into a hotel. You give your credit card and it pre-authorizes for the expected price, the hotel stay plus a little bit of extra for the minibar. And when you check out, it's based on what you actually what you actually paid at that hotel, how many nights you actually stayed, how many times you went to the restaurant and so forth. And so they'll get a pre-authorization when you check in, and when you leave, it charges for the full amount. It's the same thing here with the validation. When you check into the parking lot and you say, I'm going to stay for 2 hours or whatever it is, it will pre-authorize for that parking fee. And then when you go and get validated, perhaps it's $1 off, perhaps it's half off, perhaps it's 100% off. That will reduce the amount of the parking fee that actually gets charged to the credit card at the time you leave. And so it brings that kind of validation into the transient parking space, even in a gate-free environment as you have with open lots that have pay stations on them. The promotional messaging system, very cool. This is gives you an ability, if you're commercial, to expand that parking business with real-time geo-targeted online messaging. So you can have advertisements on there that are clickable to go and see the information or perhaps a special offer. You own the customer, so if you want to have messaging that's specific, for example, to your campus or to your city, you can do that. There's an ability to get feedback on your customer service. And if you have any kind of continuous improvement program, this is vital, where you can send out text messages to people who have parked at your facilities and have them return back and give you a feedback on your operation. It can be as simple as, a text message that goes out that says rate your experience with us 1 to 5, and they rate it, and you're going to get that feedback. You can also send out, though, a link to a survey, for example. They can open that on their browser and give you detailed feedback about what their experience was. And having that close relationship with your customer is so important in terms of being able to understand what they need and grow with them to improve your operation. Of course, those public messages are resellable to open up a new revenue stream at your operation as well, if you wish. And that's my introduction to an app-free mobile payment solution like MobilePay. We'll pause now for questions. I think Rita mentioned at the start, if you would like to ask a question, you're welcome to type it into the chat system of Zoom, and then Rita will go through those questions and read them up to me in order, so it's going to be pretty exciting. Okay, Rita, over to you.
Okay. So there is one question so far. Nathan would like to know, does T2 rate platform work with any meter manufacturer, or are you limited to using the T2 meter?
Currently, the only meter that is actually integrated with that rate system is the T2 meter, but we've created an open API which is based on the IPMI data standard, extended a little bit for some specifics that we needed. And we're open to integrations with any meter vendor, any reservation system, any mobile payment systems that would like to integrate with that integration system. We're completely open to it. It's an open API available for anyone to use. And I should say there with the reservation system, so the API works in two different modes. One is, basically, if I walked up to a pay station right now, what rates would I see on that pay station, right? And then we send back, these are the rates that we would show someone if they walked up to the pay station right now. The other way is, if I walked up to the pay station on Monday, July 4th, what rate would I see on the pay station? And we'll answer back, well, if you showed up Monday, July 4th at 10 a.m. and asked to pay for parking, these are the rates that we would show on that pay station. That's the intended use. Now, I should say also that it's very clever in the implementation. Every payment stream gets a particular ID that's specific to them. And so the pay station will have an ID, MobilePay will have an ID, any integrated solution has an identifier on it, so that if you want to, you can say, I'm charging a different price for, say, a reservation that's integrated, so that you provide different prices for each of those different payment streams. Or if you want, you can consolidate it so it's back down to that use model that I talked about, saying if I walked up to the pay station right now, or if I walked up to the pay station on Monday, what rates would that pay station show? But if you're having different payment streams, and so different rates for the different payment streams, you can basically set up a virtual pay station. And it's like, if I walked up to that virtual pay station right now, which I'm say doing with mobile pay or with another vendor, what rates are available to me right now? So it's a very flexible method of either saying, I want the exact same experience at a pay station as compared to a mobile payment stream, or I want to actually charge a slightly different rate between both modes. Both modes are actually supported. Great question, Nathan. Thank you.
Okay. Jennifer would like to know, how does this work for fleet customers like HVAC companies that don't provide their drivers with company cards? Is there a consolidated fleet billing option?
There's not a particular consolidated fleet billing option. The way you attack that is you get a report of the payments made, so that you can charge it out correctly. There's a couple of different ways to get at it if they park without paying at all, and so you've got particular fleets that can park on your facility without any payment. And it's through that kind of validation / coupon system at the pay station where you give them a code that they can either validate their mobile parking payment, or they can go to the machine and type in their code, and the machine doesn't charge them any money, but it gives them the parking session. So there's a couple of ways to get at that. From a billing perspective, though, it's on the back end where you're going to do that reporting to say, okay, who used this code and how much do we charge to them as a result of the use of that code.
Okay, we have a question from Tom. He's asking, is the parking session tracked by license plate? And if so, would customers be able to edit the plate details once the session is created if they put in the wrong plate?
We don't have a way to update the plate after the fact. If someone fat fingers it and gets through all the confirmation screens and charges to the wrong plate, whether that's a fleet or whether it's an individual parker, then that's not something that we have the ability to go back and edit on. The back end basically tracks what was actually entered at the pay station or at the mobile pay.
Okay, Armando would like to know, does T2 Mobile give you a reminder when the time expires, and does it let you add time?
That's right. Yeah. So when you pay, you can put in your phone number, and then the system will send you a text message 15 minutes before your session expires. And that text message includes a link to the add time page, so you don't have to, if you've closed the page in your mobile browser, then you don't get lost. It sends you a new link. You follow that link and it says, okay, here's your old session. It ends in 12 minutes now. How much time do you want to add? And you can add time just right there from the phone. Great question.
That looks like the last question in chat at this point. Does anyone else have any questions?
Okay, listen, everyone. I want to thank you very much for sitting in with me on this presentation. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. I always do. I'm like fingers crossed that this is the last one we do remotely. I don't know about you guys, but I am so done. I want to see you all. Even if we can't shake hands, we're going to bump elbows or something. But next time, I really hope we're all together so we can talk to each other face to face. But it is great to see you again online. Bye now.